Hello, and welcome to OurVentura.com. I'm your host, Frank James Malley, and with us in the studio today is actor, director, producer, Mr. Howard Leader. Howard, welcome.
Well, thank you, Frank. How are you?
I just introduced you as actor, director, producer. Had it been a few years ago, it would have been...
Police officer for the city of Los Angeles. Actually, I retired from the police department in 1989 and then decided to open my own business and became a licensed private investigator. And in, let's see, it was 2005, August of 2005, I had lunch with my stockbroker who said 3 magic words. At this time in your life, work's an option. So I said, work's an option. What am I going to do with myself? And I decided to become an actor. It wasn't a simple transition because I had no idea what I was doing. The bottom line is I was having my morning cup of coffee, reading garbage mail because the newspaper hadn't arrived. I was reading a Ventura College catalog and I saw a class there that said, Fundamentals of Acting. I thought, well, my goodness, that's got to be an interesting class. I think I'll sign up for it. And so I did. And the first day in class, the teacher said, everybody will be auditioning for the One Act Festival. I raised my hand and said, I'm sorry, I don't want to do a play, I just want to take the class. And she laughed at me and said, it's part of the curriculum. You will audition for the class, for the role in a One Act play. I got a small role as a security guard in a museum in a play called The Amazing Mrs. O'Shaughnessy. And I have not been off stage since August of 2005. My last play closed in July, and I promised myself I would take 6 months off from acting, and I'm keeping to that promise, and my next opening is January 14th of 2011 in a small one-act play. Policeman
to actor. That's quite a transition.
It is a transition.
What would you say is the carryover from one to the other? They seem to be polar opposites.
Actually, when you think about it, and I didn't think about it at the time, but it was pointed out to me, they are not opposites at all, because as a police officer, you are in fact acting. If I'm going to approach a suspect on the street who's 6'5", 350 pounds, and he tells me that he's not going to jail, then I have to convince him, by way of acting, that I am bigger and badder than he ever will be. So by doing that, you're in fact acting, convincing that man that he had better not start to play games because somebody's going to end up in the hospital. So you're in essence acting as a police officer.
As a detective, you are searching for other people. As an actor, you're searching for your character.
Correct.
Did you find some similarities with that as well?
No, I don't think I did. Not really knowing anything about acting, never having acted before, I truly didn't know what to do. I mean, I saw the words on a page, and of course it didn't take me too long to realize you just don't speak the words on a page, you have to become that character. And as I read more and more scripts, I found myself, and it's a very interesting transition, I found myself truly becoming the character that I was hired to portray. For example, I did a small movie for the Brooks Institute right here in Ventura. And there was a scene where I had died. I was involved in a car crash and I died. And not yet dead, I had to wave goodbye to my little girl who survived the car crash. And the first day of the shoot, the little girl, and she was a little 6, 7-year-old girl, the director said, just wave at this man. And I had the camera behind me, and the camera was shooting over my right shoulder. And I would just wave, and I wasn't on camera, and she would wave, and I would just wave. And that lasted for, 10, 15 minutes, but of course they only used a few seconds. The next day of shooting, it was my turn to wave goodbye to my daughter, but the little girl was not on the set. So I just focused on a spot on the wall. And I just looked at it, and the director said, action. And I looked at that spot, and I thought of my daughter. And all of a sudden, the tears just started to come down. And it was the first time I realized I could cry on cue. As a matter of fact, I'm getting emotional now thinking about it, but I realized I could cry on cue. And I said, whoa, this must be acting. When you get so deep into the character that you truly become that character. And it's a strange feeling, very, very hard for me to describe.
It's amazing that it comes natural to you. Of course, actors go through hell trying to come up with those kind of emotions.
I'm very lucky.
Sense memory is one of the techniques, you know, that you're trained for.
Yes.
So actor, director, producer, how'd you make that transition?
Well, I did this small play up at Ventura College, and then I did another play called Room Service. I played a Russian waiter, and I thought, well, this is fun. I'm just having a great time jumping up and down on couches. And then there was another one-act festival the following year, and the teacher, Dr. Judy Gary, asked for directors. I said, well, I've been an actor. Let me direct. So I raised my hand, and I selected a one-act play. And it was actually not a one-act play. It was longer than a one-act, and it was a challenge. And of course, she was asking me all kind of questions that I really didn't have the answers to. Who was the protagonist? Of course, I went right to the dictionary. Protagonist. Who is the antagonist? Oh my God, what is an antagonist? And I was really lost. But with her help, I was able to direct the play. And you take the words from a piece of paper, and you take the vision that you have and you put it up there on the stage. And when you look at these actors and you get them to perform your vision, it's an amazing feeling. It's like, yes, that's what I want. That's what I want from them. And so now when you hear stories about directors, you know, doing a take 1, take 2, take 3, take 4, and sometimes actors in film, I'm speaking specifically, will become nuts or go nuts because of all these repeated takes over and over. It's because the director has a vision of the words on a piece of paper, and you're trying to take that vision as a director and force it into the mind of the actor. And once you've got it, it's sealed, it's in print, and it's memorialized forever and ever, and it's a wonderful feeling.
You're currently the president, if I'm correct, of the Elite Theater.
I am.
Here in Oxnard. What is your role in that capacity?
Boy, another story. I became involved with the Elite Theater. It's close to my home. And I did a couple plays there, and somebody said, why did you become a member of the board? And I thought, well, okay, I have spare time. I'm no longer working other than acting. And I became a member of the board, and the next thing, before I know it, I'm treasurer, and now I am the president. And my role is to guide the theater along with the rest of the board of directors, into a prosperous year. The fact is, theater, whether it is the Elite in Oxnard, the Rubicon, and I'm sure we've all read about the Rubicon's tribulations, trials and tribulations as far as money is concerned, but you see, theater really doesn't recover what they spend in ticket sales. We only make 40 to 50% in ticket sales, and so our obligation is to go out and find money, whether it's fundraising, filing for grants, doing whatever it takes to make the theater prosperous for the community. I mean, it is community theater, and unless we are prosperous, the community will have to do other things. So my role is to lead our theater into finding funds to continue to keep the theater going.
Community theater, you mentioned. If one wants to get involved with the theater, what kind of opportunities are available?
We have many, many opportunities. If you are so inclined to be before the audience, and believe me, there are a lot of people who want to be behind the scenes, who just have a phobia about performing. But if they want to get involved, we have the need for costumers, people who know how to go to the thrift stores and buy clothes that are needed for a particular production, people who know how to sew clothes. If you need a period piece that you just can't find, obviously it has to be made. Set builders, if you're good with your hands and good with tools, of which I am not, we need people to know how to build sets, and sets are simple once you know what you're doing. We need set painters, we need set dressers. I mean, a set is a set. You have certain pieces of wood you put up, you make a wall, you stick a couch, a sink, and a refrigerator, but that's not a completed set. You need to have somebody put up the dish towel ring. You need somebody to find the right tea kettle. So we need set dressers. We need light operators. We need sound operators. I mean, every theater, every community theater, every professional theater, college theater, these people are needed. Without these people, we have no theater. So there are a lot of opportunities.
Now, I know you're very involved with one-act plays.
I am.
You've both acted in them, you've directed them, and now you're currently producing a one-act festival.
I am, yes.
Tell me how that came about.
Being affiliated with, and I'll get back to the Elite because primarily that's where I do a lot of work, even though I've worked in Ojai and I've worked at the Strasbourg in Los Angeles, I've worked at the Rubicon, but Ojai being my home base, so to speak. The theater is dark, like most theaters are, right after Christmas. And plays are in rehearsal from right after Christmas until they open, usually 6 weeks later, the middle of February. Mm-hmm. If you take the entire month of January and the first 2 weeks of February, this theater is not taking in any money. It's dark, what we call in the business dark. So obviously I have to pay rent, I have to pay utilities, I have to pay a phone bill. Where do I get the money? So I had a brainstorm 2 years ago, why don't we have a one-act festival? And so I put the word out on a list that I have. It's called Auditions and More. And people send me plays, not more than 15 minutes. I received over 150 plays from around the world. And I just read play after play after play, and I picked the best 8 plays and held auditions, found 8 different directors, and we put on a one-act festival in January of last year, and the theater made over $2,000. So it covered all the rent, covered all the expenses. Then I had a brainstorm. I said, well, let's do it again next year, but let's make it interesting. Let's get more qualified playwrights, more qualified plays. And so we put the word out there, we're going to have our first playwright contest. And we did, and we had several people who were judges, including Dr. Judy Gary, who is the department chair at Ventura College. She was one of the judges, and we've selected 5 wonderful plays for our next festival, which opens January of 2011. And we're going to, as a matter of fact, we are now discussing 2012, because we're now going to start soliciting projects for that one-act festival also.
So if there are aspiring writers out there, how do they submit their plays?
If they want to submit their plays, they can go on the website at the Elite Theater, which is www.elitetheatre.org, and there are instructions and directions on how to submit a play and all the rules, because it has to be on a certain size paper with certain size print, so many characters, because we have a small stage, and obviously we can't do a project like Fiddler on the Roof because we just don't have enough room for a roof. So it has to conform to certain specifics.
Just to clarify something, you say theater RE. You're not saying theater RE as in regarding, you're saying in the spelling of the word.
Right, it is Elite
itself.
Theater. The word theater is spelled the French way, RE, as opposed to ER.
Important, because if they sent it out, it would
bounce. Absolutely, and I thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Howard, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. Not really a loaded question.
Okay.
Tell me the difference between a producer and a director. Everybody wants to know. Now, it seems that the producer puts up the money, the director has all the headaches. What's your take on it?
2 totally different functions of theater. The director's primary, and I would like to say only responsibility, is to take that play that was written by the playwright, to take the vision of the play and work with the actors, mold the actors into the characters that he sees on that paper, and put them on, we call the boards, put them on the boards, and so that the audience becomes, for the hour and a half or 2 hours that it takes, so engrossed in what's happening that we take their mind away from all the unpleasantness.
10 seconds. And the producer?
And the producer is responsible for making sure we don't go over budget, because directors, set people, painters, everybody wants to spend as much money because they want the best set in the world. The producer has to be the bad guy and watch the checkbook.
Thank you, Howard. It's been great having you on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on OurVentura.com. I'm your host, Frank James Malley.